Absolutely. Good morning to any Aldine that's tuned in right now. We appreciate you.
That's right.
Really cool.
Real America's Voice on the map. We're on the map, Don Lemon, Don Lemon, Don Lemon.
Well, it is fun. It is fun getting out there. You know, the worst part is when you go with like your hair in curlers. Terrence, you know how this is. And then you run into somebody like, I watch your show every day. You're like, I wouldn't have had my hair in curlers had I known. Right, Terrence?
Yeah. Every time I get in my car in the morning, I tend to sit on a curl. I'm like, oh, I forgot I left this in here. Yeah. First world problems, Dr. G.
All right, you guys. War Room is coming up next with Steve Bannon. Hug your children, love God, go boldly now. Live the truth, and we'll be back with you mañana.
Watch those curlers, T-Bates. Watch those curlers.
America's elections are rigged, stolen, and a laughingstock all over the world. We are either going to fix them or we won't have a country any longer. For fact's sake, Donald Trump won 2 of those so-called rigged, stolen elections. Susan, you wrote that this is no longer a question if Donald Trump will undermine Americans' confidence in the midterms, but how? What do you see us doing to protect that?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a situation where, you know, you've seen Republicans basically abandon their longstanding views about states' rights and federalism. And, you know, now all of a sudden Mike Johnson is the one who decides that it's the job of the federal speaker of the House to be commenting on questionable election practices in states that he doesn't like or that elect Democrats. You know, the decentralization, I think, is the thing that, you know, experts are looking to. You know, it's one of the reasons, of course, that Donald Trump's claims of a rigged election in 2020 are so absurd and farcical. It is simply inconceivable that in 6 swing states in 2020, all over this country, the massive number of people who had been involved in the conspiracy of those alleged by Donald Trump and the sort of fever dreams he's encouraged among his supporters, it's basically inconceivable in the context of our very decentralized state-run election system. And again, it should be pointed out that the Constitution is very clear that it's up to the states to regulate the time, place, and manner of elections. That is not a role for the president of the United States, who just last Monday said he wanted to nationalize, quote unquote, elections in 15 states. But I think there are enormous fears among state election officials about the kind of actions that can be taken in key states looking ahead to this fall. One thing, I spoke with an election law expert who pointed out that, you know, the time for states and localities to act is probably before Republicans, you know, come in there, and to be prepared in advance to get injunctions and things like that to keep ICE away from the polling places.
This apparent abuse of federal law enforcement power to indulge the president's obsession with overturning the 2020 election and to lay the groundwork for whatever mischief they're planning in a few months, I think is obviously deeply disturbing, deeply chilling, deeply menacing, and also a huge political mistake for this administration, because in Georgia, where now for the second time in 6 years, Georgia voters have the weight of the republic's future on our shoulders, we are just that much more determined to do our part to right the ship. This election is pivotal. If we do not restore checks and balances in these midterm elections, we will not recognize our republic at the end of this presidential term. We may lose our republic.
And he had a lot of us moving, and he moved a lot of us. And for me, you know, as someone who's a little bit more seasoned, I had a chance to reflect, I think, in some interesting ways. And you touched on it about how the expressions of protest and how our expressions of being put upon as a minority or as individuals or as a community by a majority, how we would respond to that. What I took away from last night was Bad Bunny said, "This is America now, y'all." This is who we are now. This isn't the future of America. People talk about, America is going to be black and brown majority in 24. No. We're there now. We're in the moment now. And so to be very direct about last night, a lot of Donald Trump white people got upset. A lot of them complained. A lot of them were a little bit, how should we say, twitchy about what they saw, complaining about the fact that I didn't understand a word he said. Really? Really? You weren't moved by the moment? You weren't moved by the visuals? You weren't moved by the sound? You fixated on words to try to understand, but if you heard the words in English, you still wouldn't have understood them. And that's the point. If they heard the words in English, they still wouldn't have understood them because they listened to one man who has clouded their judgment and their reason with his own twitchiness, right?
I mean, Donald Trump, since he launched his political career, has run a decade-long anti-Latino campaign. He immediately started by going against Mexicans. It has extended to every Latino group. We have had a year-long persecution of Venezuelans. It does not matter. His federal agents are being enabled to stop any of us. And so I have to say, though, there were so many people who thought the little boy was Liam Cornejo Ramos.
And he wasn't.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that little boy who was detained in Minnesota and arrested, and he was a flashpoint. And so many people saw that instead of seeing if that doesn't tell you about the racial profiling that's happening in the streets right now with every Latino out there, these federal agents, we have a Supreme Court justice who gave a roadmap for this administration on how to stop specifically the Latino community, right? So we are being hunted. And I just have to keep saying that because it shouldn't fall on Bad Bunny or Super Bowl artists to defend our Americanness because Latinos are part of our past, we're the present, and Trump doesn't want us to be part of the future. And I think a lot of people are feeling that. And those of us, and there is diversity, right? I do not know Puerto Rican culture. I come from Mexican American culture. But that relation, he is uniting us by persecuting all of us equally and with the same paramilitary force. And I want to know which elected leader is going to be as brave as Bad Bunny has consistently been with his art.
He wants Republicans to pass the SAVE Act, which will change voting to be adjusted, that it will exist in the ways that he wants. But, Luke, isn't this basically dead on arrival because of the filibuster in the Senate?
Yeah, I mean, it will pass the House, right? They'll get the Republican votes in the House for it, but they will not get the votes in the Senate for it. So this is largely a political statement that's being made to try to falsely claim that American elections are rigged and untrustworthy so that if Democrats win the midterms, that they can blame it on widespread fraud. I think as a fact check, we should just remind people how rare voter fraud is in America. It is illegal. People get prosecuted for it. It does happen occasionally, but it's like less than 100 cases in the last 2 decades. I mean, conservative groups have been hunting for cases of voter fraud to show that it exists. And you do get the occasional case now and then, but it's so rare and so limited that it would not impact the national election. It wouldn't impact even a statewide election. And so they're hoping for this fantastical claims of fraud that really don't exist. But we can anticipate to hear about them a lot as long as Donald Trump is president.
I'm not going to sit here and wait for the future, because that's a game that others want you to play. What you saw last night was the future coming to the moment now, and America realized for the first time in that context, they watched the panoply play out on that field. Right, and they saw the bodegas, they saw the wedding, they saw the guy, the nail salon, all of that, which Simone particularly I'm sure enjoyed. So that to me was the American aspect of that.
Trump has never been less powerful. The agenda he's pursuing has never been more evident and more unpopular. What this means if you're a wuss, what this means if you were wrong in 2025 in the first year of Donald Trump being back in office, well, it means that 2026 is good news for you. 2026 is the easiest chance you'll ever have to rectify what you did wrong, to get on the right side of this thing. Now or never.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies.
because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Tuesday, 10 February, year of our Lord 2026. We're absolutely packed today, so let's get into it. I want to thank the team for a brilliant cold open. They're very focused on what is essential now, particularly on Capitol Hill, that's going to have a huge impact rolling all the way through to November of this year, 2026. That's what we've got to get on it. Mike Davis joins me. First off, Mike, I want to talk about the Hill, and if my crack team could put up that Hill, the lead story in the Hill today is about the reality of what's going on in the Senate. Chip Roy and the team are about to bring, I think, to the Rules Committee a new restructured bill to be voted on the House. Also, Eric Schmidt, who we had on the other day, and I think we're trying to get Senator Schmidt on either this afternoon or tomorrow, but Tommy Tuberville is going to join us this afternoon. The real fighters in the Senate are actually bringing up a different piece of legislation that's going on offense. And now there's this back and forth between, I guess, the White House and these radical Senate Democrats. We've put forward a proposal, but we haven't heard what's in the proposal as a counter. You know, the position, I think, of MAGA, at least the MAGA base, is that the ideas they had were so radical that there's nothing to negotiate here. And the ticking that you hear is the Munich Security Conference. All the senators of both party that are kind of the war party, 20 or 30 of them got to get to Munich so their paymasters can know that they're in attendance there. Mike Davis, first off, didn't a federal judge back up this whole situation with masks and what the sanctuary states like Newsom are trying to do? Aren't the courts actually coming about the law enforcement capabilities of the federal government and at least at some level having the president's back?
Yes, a Democrat judge in California just sided with the Trump administration when California Governor Gavin Newsom tried to tell ICE agents, federal officers, what they can and can't wear. That's not the state's job. There's the supremacy clause, and Congress has power over immigration. Congress wrote these immigration laws decades ago on behalf of we the people, exercising we the people's most crucial sovereign power to control our border and populace, to decide who comes and decide who goes. And the president has the constitutional power and duty to execute Congress's laws on behalf of we the people. And that's what President Trump is doing. And when you're exercising federal law, states don't get to come in and micromanage or even interfere in any way with federal law. So this Democrat judge followed clear law from decades ago that the federal law is the supreme law of the land. Immigration is immigration is decided by federal law, and Gavin Newsom can go to hell.
Okay, so on the Hill right now, and we're monitoring both of these. We'll jump in you got the DHS and I think the ICE senior people. I'm not so sure it's Holman are at I think a DHS committee to review their activity. Also, Jason Smith at Ways and Means, and Smith is a very smart guy when it comes to taxes. He's got a hearing on really getting into this dark money that's in back of the color revolution. Who's actually financing this? So we're gonna jump in and out of those. But Mike, those laws were written decades ago in a bipartisan nature. Why would the Democrats be taking a harder edge about law enforcement, particularly when you've got a situation where you've got 15 to 20 million, and even the Hill today that it was 15 to 20 million illegal aliens in the country on Biden's watch, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to these Democrats who want to beat up immigration agents, these Democrats should look in the mirror. It's their laws. These agents are the good men and women of federal law enforcement who are simply doing their jobs by executing our federal immigration laws. If the Democrats don't like it, try to change the laws. But we just had an election over this, and President Trump won a broad electoral mandate, 312 electoral votes, all 7 swing states, capped the House, won a comfortable margin in the Senate, and the American people want President Trump to seal our border, which President Trump has done, and to expel these illegal aliens, and starting with the most vicious terrorist among them. And President Trump is doing what he promised American voters he would do. If Democrats don't like that, too bad. Win elections.
Mike, hang on. We're going to get into what's going on at Capitol Hill. It seems a little confusing in the fog of war, but we'll make it all clear to you exactly what is going down. Birch Gold has a special. The End of the Dollar Empire is now in a Patriots edition, a hard copy. You can get it with an appropriate investment. Go to birchgold.com. Promo code Bannon, The End of the Dollar Empire. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team. You can get your signed edition of the 7 series so far. Check it out.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. Mike Davis, having a little problem with the sound, guys. You got to cut it up. Mike Davis, can you give us Article 3 where people can go?
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Follow us on social, donate, but only what you can afford. But the biggest issue is the top right there. Tell Congress to stop illegal immigrants from stealing our elections. That's the SAVE Act. And this is an issue where it's an 80-20 issue, meaning 80% of Americans support passing the SAVE Act, including a supermajority of Democrats and even a supermajority of minorities. Democrats pretend that black people don't have the wherewithal to get a voter ID like everyone else, when we all know the reason that Democrat politicians are opposing this is because they want their illegal aliens who Biden and these Democrats mass imported for the last 4 years of Biden, over 20 million of them. Democrats are trying to get them on the voter rolls so they can rig and steal elections. They're trying to replace American voters, and we need to stop that. They say this fraud doesn't happen. Well, if it doesn't happen, then they shouldn't have any problem passing the SAVE Act. And they say, I heard this woman in your cold open saying that the elections clause gives the power to the states to control elections. She's not reading the elections clause correctly, because Congress can override the states as to the time, place, and manner of federal elections. This must pass. Senate Republicans should not have any excuse for not passing this. It's an 80-20 issue again. And if Democrats are going to drag their heels, they need to nuke the legislative filibuster and get this done.
So today, and I think it's going to come out of rules, but they're going to try to add and have a combination in the House of voter ID, purging the voter rolls of, and this is key, the voter rolls are key, purge the voter rolls of, because this is how they work the mail-in ballot scam, purge the voter rolls of illegitimate people, and then put some a modicum of like signature verification into the mail-in ballots. If you do this, and I think this is going to become quite evident as the evidence comes out in Georgia, and the evidence is coming out in Georgia, Mike, this will go a long way to stopping the Democrats from using these 20 million to steal future elections.
Yeah, I mean, how are dead people supposed to vote if you do this? I mean, Democrats can't win elections if dead people can't vote or mystery voters can't vote. And here's the tell. The Democrats are concerned that immigration officials are around election places. That's the biggest tell of them all. It's illegal for illegals to vote. So American citizens shouldn't be scared of immigration officials. Only illegals would be scared of immigration officials. And so if illegals are going to vote, they're already there illegally.
So what is, I mean, they're in a complete meltdown about President Trump saying he's going to nationalize these. And by that, he means not make a couple of issues, which I think it will be. A couple of issues will be an up or down vote by the country on Congress. But he's saying that, hey, we may have to have federal agents around these because we don't want, you got 15 or 20 million. We're hung up right now on mass deportations. We may have to do it. Why? The left literally every day, they're hammering, they're saying Trump's an authoritarian. I'm an authoritarian. You're worse. You're the lawyer for the authoritarians. Why have they melted down over just the basic stuff in the law, but also having federal officers there to make sure that you have a fair and safe elections?
Because Democrats rig and steal elections with illegal votes and phantom votes. That's how they won the 2020 election. They used COVID as an excuse to illegally change election laws. Only state legislatures or Congress can change federal election laws. Democrats use COVID to change election laws. They mass mailed ballots out to old voter lists, including college students who have moved 10 times since the last election. And then they got rid of election observers because of COVID. They said that they're going to kill people if you have election observers. They even got rid of signature verification because, as we've said on your show many times, Democrats actually pretend that COVID changed your signature. And then we had magical vote spikes in the middle of the night in key Democrat hellhole counties across Georgia, and voila, Trump lost the election in the middle of the night. It was obviously rigged and stolen. They're about to get caught doing that, and they are blowing their gaskets that we actually want to secure our election so this doesn't happen again, because it makes it hard for Democrats to have their illegals and their phantom voters illegally vote for them in these elections.
Do you feel confident? Do you feel confident right now that you got cash on the criminal side? You have Tulsi Gabbard, and I think it'll become pretty evident with news that comes out over the next couple of weeks why Tulsi Gabbard's involved from a national security and intelligence perspective. But do you feel confident that Main Justice and the Justice Department, since Fani Willis, your favorite, we're going to put 15, 16, 17, 18 people in prison because of those ballots and because of the stealing in Georgia to cover their tracks, and they were going to send President Trump away to die in prison about what happened in Georgia? Are you pretty confident? You're hardwired over at Justice. Are you confident that we're going to get not just the bottom of it, but we're going to start holding people accountable that stole the election?
I have to be careful what I say on this, but I would say that nobody is above the law. And if you get caught rigging and stealing federal elections, that is a very serious crime. And you can't get more of a serious crime for that in a democracy. These Democrats talk about democracy or whatever, we're a republic, but regardless, that you can't get a bigger crime than that, than rigging and stealing elections. And that's exactly what the Democrats did in the 2020 election in Georgia and in other states. But it sounds like they have pretty compelling evidence down in Georgia. And I don't know what Democrats would be so concerned about. If they've done nothing wrong, they should show their hand.
This will change. Do you believe we're going to have James Rosen on talking about his second book on the magisterial biography of Associate Justice Scalia, but he also wrote a piece about the deep state and Nixon, the lawfare against Nixon. Do you believe that this, when we present the facts, that this will be orders of magnitude worse than Watergate? You'll actually show how they stole a presidential election, and because of that, brought 15 to 20 million illegal alien invaders into the country, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this since the Mar-a-Lago raid. It was long before that, but I've been on your show since the Mar-a-Lago raid. The Democrats have politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement for over 8 years against President Trump. They tried to prevent him from becoming president with the Russian collusion hoax and Crossfire Hurricane. They tried to sabotage his presidency during the first 4 years when he won against all odds. They impeached him twice when they rigged and stole the 2020 election and chased him out of office. And then when he was going to run for office again, they ran the unprecedented Republican-ending lawfare against him, 4 indictments for non-crimes, tried to bankrupt him for non-fraud, tried to throw him off the ballot unconstitutionally in Colorado and Maine. Elsewhere, Biden tried to take off Trump's head. He underfunded Trump's Secret Service protection, said he was the gravest threat to democracy, tried to get him killed twice, once in Butler, Pennsylvania, and once on his golf course. And by the grace of God, Trump is back in office. A millimeter and a millisecond, the hand of God. And Trump is back in office. He's expelling these illegal aliens, restoring our sovereignty as we the people. These Democrats are trying to stop him. They're trying to sabotage him every step of the way with their lawyers, with their judges, with their plaintiffs. He is fighting every day for America. He knows that if he does not succeed, America is not going to succeed. I mean, I truly believe in 2024, everything was on the line. If Trump would have lost that election, it was game over America. And we are certainly not out of the woods. Trump has to succeed over the next 3 years if we have a fighting chance to save our country. We are going to become Europe. We look at the mass invasion of Europe with Islamists all over Europe who are conquering Europe. They've conquered the United Kingdom. We have an Islamist in New York City who is preaching mass invasion from the Quran. I mean, they are here. And if Trump does not succeed in getting these illegal aliens, particularly these Islamists, the hell out of America, we are cooked. We are conquered.
Mike, a minute. What should people look for in this Senate? I know you got to bounce. This Senate fight. Schmidt goes to Mar-a-Lago. Lindsey Graham goes to Mar-a-Lago. They watch the Super Bowl with the president. They come back and they are fighting mad. The president, I think, gave him the word. I want to fight this thing in the Senate. What should we look for, sir, in this fight?
Look, I think Eric Schmidt is a bold and fearless warrior for the Constitution. And so I am very happy he's going to serve as the tip of the spear on this. He was he's been a very effective member of the Senate already, and he's very good on this lawfare. He's on the Judiciary Committee. So hats off to Senator Eric Schmidt. We should all get behind his efforts, and we need to rally the War Room posse to support him every step of the way.
Where Article 3, one more time. Give me the pitch. Where they go?
That's article3project.org, article number 3project.org. The most critical action item on the screen right now is click on the top right, which is the SAVE Act. Tell Congress to stop illegal immigrants from stealing our elections. Light up both of your home state senators. Call them, post on social media, email them, hit up your U.S. House rep. We need to build momentum to get the SAVE Act passed so we can save our republic from this third world invasion.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. You know what you got to do. Let's do it. Short commercial break. James Rosen, Chief Washington Correspondent for Newsmax. His new book, the second installment of the biography of Scalia.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAVAngel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAVAngel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
Hi, Pat, from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love RAV?
Because we've become family. All those RAV live chatters and me.
Hello, this is Kurt. Why do I love RAV? If you ever talk to the hosts, you can do that on RAV. And the RAV family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. James Rosen, the chief Washington correspondent for Newsmax, joins us. Today is publishing day for the second volume of his magisterial biography of Justice Scalia. The first book was The Rise to Greatness. This is the Supreme Court years. It's the first part of Scalia's time on the bench, I think from 1986 or 87 all the way to 2001, the contested 2000 election. James, first off, it is, I want you to tell us about the book, but more importantly, what inspired you? You're one of the top news people in D.C. You have been for decades and decades. You're now the chief Washington correspondent for Newsmax, which you oversee an incredible branch. You guys are breaking news all the time, doing stories. You just wrote a huge piece in the New York Times we'll get to in a moment. How do you find time? I mean, what is the inspiration that felt you had to do this and take as much time and energy, not just to do the research and the interviews, but write this book? It's just a beautifully written book.
Thank you on all accounts, Steve, and it's great to be back with you. You ask about the time. I steal it from my family. This originally began, this book, as a concise biography of Antonin Scalia. And as Mrs. Rosen can tell you, I don't do anything concisely. And I wrote about 170,000 words, and I had just gotten the man to sit down in his chair at the Supreme Court. So that was volume 1, published 3 years ago, Scalia Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986. The new book, released today, and you're very kind to have me on to promote it, is Scalia, Supreme Court Years 1986 to 2001. And this covers the first half of Justice Scalia's nearly 30 terms on the Supreme Court. It starts with his first day on the court and takes us all the way through the national trauma of Bush v. Gore. And what inspired me was watching Scalia on television when I was in middle school and high school. He would participate in these PBS debate programs, and they were sort of theater in the round type settings, and they would have these eminent minds convened to discuss hypothetical scenarios like ticking bomb scenarios and so forth. And the people convened would be Antonin Scalia, Dan Rather, Gerald Ford, Alexander Haig. And Scalia struck me as being fundamentally different from everyone else on that stage. He was, first of all, like me, an outer borough New Yorker, where he was born in New Jersey, but he was raised in Queens. I'm from Staten Island. He has that sort of sarcastic, in-your-face kind of humor. And he had humor to begin with, which a lot of people in official life don't really display. When I came to Fox News in 1999, to Washington, I wrote to Scalia and said, hey, I'd love to do an interview, in essence. And he wrote back and basically said, I have a policy which makes it that I don't make a spectacle of myself as a judge, but I'd be happy to get together for lunch. And I said, I appreciate your policy, but what other than a spectacle should we call it when you're appearing on a theater in the round setting with cameras for PBS, convened amongst other eminent minds discussing hypothetical scenarios? And Scalia wrote back and he said, you are right. Right there. That's a major concession. A lot of his clerks never heard those words. Maybe some of his children never heard those words. You are right. I probably should not have done those PBS shows. We had lunch twice, and we continued writing to each other. We had a really amusing correspondence. The lunches were off the record, but I can talk a little bit about the atmospherics and the correspondence between us. And that's all in the book. There's a chapter in the book called The Rabbit. And this is about what it was like when I was 30 years old and not a lawyer, still not a lawyer, to have lunch with Antonin Scalia where we're knocking back red wine. And he overruled my lunch order, Steve, America's foremost opponent of judicial activism, when I ordered the veal at his favorite restaurant, now gone, the AV Ristorante Italiano. He overruled my order and said to the waiter, give him the rabbit. And we both looked at him and said, rabbit? He goes, yeah, you're going to like the rabbit. Give him the rabbit. I didn't want rabbit, and I haven't had it since, Steve. And all of this appears in this book, Scalia, Supreme Court Years, 1986 to 2001, out today. So you're not a lawyer, and I don't think your beat when you first got there was covering the courts because you're not a lawyer. But tell me, why do you? Because in this volume, I think you're making the case that he's not just simply one of the most important jurists to ever sit on the Supreme Court ever, but he's one of the most important personages in modern political history and maybe all of American political history, sir. Well, I wouldn't even confine him to political history, because when you're one of the 9 justices sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States, your rulings, your decisions are going to touch every aspect of American life. Scalia's legacy as a justice is profound and stretches across all known sectors of American life. One example is criminal defendants' rights. And he wrote a key opinion, for example, that held it unconstitutional for accused sex offenders who've been charged with crimes against minors He held it was unconstitutional at trial for such an individual for a screen to be placed between the defendant and the young minor who was going through the trauma of testifying. And Scalia said, hey, as a textualist, as an originalist, the Sixth Amendment right to confront your accuser, and he busted out the dictionaries. Confront means confront. It means eyeball to eyeball. And while that might be painful for the alleged victim, nonetheless, that's what justice requires. That's one example, and that's not just political history. The way Scalia became so important, the reason I'm writing these books, the reason Americans have to know about Antonin Scalia, why he's one of the most important Americans of the last 100 years, is because of the judicial philosophy he brought to his job. The central business of being a judge is that you interpret the laws. You tell us what the laws mean. And when Scalia came along as a judge, originally on the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, where he sat with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that's where their famous friendship began, where he sat with Robert Bork and Kenneth Starr and Larry Silberman and James L. Buckley, just an incredible array of talent on that court. When he came along as a judge and then a justice, there prevailed in the American law a liberal notion called the living Constitution. This is the idea that judges today should be free to interpret the Constitution and any law passed since then in the broadest possible way, because they feel that this Constitution, the Constitution we have, its meaning should expand like a living, breathing organism or an accordion to account for things that the founders never could have contemplated, such as the internet or nuclear weapons. Scalia stood athwart all that. He said, the intent of the lawmakers is what they passed up or down in the Congress and what a president of the United States signed, the text of the law. And we shouldn't be looking beyond the text to go back into the legislative history of floor speeches and committee reports to find out what lawmakers intended. We know what they intended. It's the text of the law. That was a profound revolution in the law, and it changed the way we write the laws in America, the way we argue them in courts, and the way the laws are ruled upon by judges and justices. By the time he died, when he started, there were no originalists or textualists on the Supreme Court. By the time he died, even Elena Kagan, the Supreme Court justice appointed by President Obama, had proclaimed, in essence, thanks to the Scalia revolution, we are all originalists now.
Let's talk about that revolution when he first got there, because you had the reason he even got the slot is they made Rehnquist, went from associate justice to become the chief justice. And of course, there was a lot of rancor in his confirmation hearing. I think you said 33 votes against, which was a record at the time. That would be a landslide today, but times are different. You also had, I think Scalia was 98-0. But when he first got on the court, what was his reception in the book? What's his reception as he starts putting this judicial philosophy? Because they always have these conferences, right, immediately after the case comes in, and then after they have the oral arguments. How was he perceived, and how was this philosophy, particularly when he had pretty strong personalities, and Rehnquist is kind of a classic conservative? How was it taken?
So when he was on the Court of Appeals, the judges ruled on cases in groups of three, and it was very intimate and collegial, and he could just waltz down the hall and kibitz with Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Abner Mikva or any of the people who had been appointed by Democrats. It was all very collegial. When he got to the Supreme Court, he was made to understand by his robed colleagues that there would be no kibitzing in chambers, that there would be no give and take, no arguments about how they should rule in the conferences. Rehnquist, as Chief Justice, as an Associate Justice, had labored under and chafed under these long-winded perorations by the Chief Justice Warren Burger. And Rehnquist was determined when he became chief, we're going to run these conferences quick. We're going to go around the table. You're going to say how you're voting. You give a couple of lines of explanation, and that's it. And Scalia, who had been a professor, loved debate. He loved getting into it. His sons told me that if he should stumble into a room where they're watching a football game, even if he doesn't know the players or which teams are playing, if he got a sense of which team his sons were rooting for, he'd start animatedly rooting for the other team. He just loved to mix it up like that. But at the Supreme Court, he called it a locked vault. That's the name of the chapter about his early days there. And it took some getting used to. And so, like a mighty river redirected, he instead turned his energies to oral arguments, which is the only public setting of the Supreme Court's work where spectators are allowed in to watch the proceedings. And he began dominating oral argument and producing riotous laughter in the Supreme Court. Studies have been done, and they showed far and away Antonin Scalia was not only the most frequent questioner on his time on the court, but also the most frequently the one to produce laughter. And you can listen to those recordings of these oral arguments, even in Bush v. Gore. And the laughter that Scalia produces, it's like comedy club laughter. It's not polite laughter, as you might see at a congressional hearing. It's like explosive laughing and clapping that goes on for 10 seconds. And just like a pro, he would know to wait and then start in with his additional questioning. So he was seen as a kind of a bull in the china shop. But the truth is, he was pressing upon his colleagues, people like Sandra Day O'Connor, Thurgood Marshall, William Brennan. These are some hallowed names. He was in essence pressing them, hey, tighten up your act, okay? You are not obeying the law. You're not actually interpreting the law according to what the text says. You're doing crazy things like saying like a 1976 law was actually preempted by an earlier law, like crazy rulings, and he stood athwart all that. And this book, Scalia, Supreme Court Years, 1986 to 2001, has all of the memos back and forth between Scalia and the other justices, their personal letters, which sometimes got snippy. At one point, Scalia declares to Justice Harry Blackmun, the author of Roe v. Wade, who did not like Scalia, I am hurt, Scalia wrote to him at one point. I am hurt that you would accuse me of X, Y, and Z. So there's a lot of human drama here, as well as the law and as well as shaping of American society.
I'm going to hold you through the break to talk about this New York Times piece. We've got about 90 seconds here. Make your pitch why non-lawyers and people that don't follow the Supreme Court so closely should buy this book and buy it today.
This book is written for non-lawyers. Reading it myself, I'm telling you, I crack up all the time at Scalia and his antics and his brilliance and his wit. If you want to know how we got to modern America, and if you want to know about the life and thinking of one of our greatest patriots and really one of our greatest literary stylists, you're going to read this book, Scalia, Supreme Court Years, 1986 to 2001.
Okay, we've had a pretty good track record here of getting books on the New York Times bestseller list. We need this book on the New York Times bestseller list. Number one, to send a message that books about leading figures and dominant personalities in the conservative movement have a broad readership out there. I would tell people also, having seen this and done some background studies on it of James's, the first volume, which is amazing, that this is a book you want to buy and give to young people in your life. This is a book that shows you, Scalia came from a very middle-class environment, just a hardworking guy, kept his nose down and rose not just to the top of his profession, but become one of the most important people, as James says, one of the most important people in American history. And the first volume is, I call it magisterial. The second volume's out. It's in bookstores today. Knowing how they rig it, you may have to go and actually ask for the title. It may not be at the front of Barnes & Noble, but Scalia, the Supreme Court Years, is out today. You can get it on Amazon. More importantly, for voting on for the way the New York Times calculates, go to a bookstore and get it. We're taking a short commercial break. James Rosen on the other side.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAVAngel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAVAngel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
Hi, Pep from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rev?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Hello, this is Kurt. Why do I love Rav? You ever talk to the host? You can do that on Rav. And the Rav family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, the second volume of Scalia. This one's the Supreme Court years, which is basically the first part of Justice Scalia's term on the Supreme Court. A must read. Also get a copy for a young person in your life. We need role models, and Scalia is a role model. Whether you want to go into law or you have interest in the Supreme Court or not, you'll learn a lot about American history and the direction of American history. So, James Rosen, you also had in the New York Times today or Sunday, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 words, maybe more. A huge story, which was, I think, one of the most important stories about Richard Nixon, about lawfare, and about President Trump and where we currently stand as a country. The title is kind of an obscure title. Why? It's really, the title should have been like The Secret History of the Deep State. This is a profound and powerful piece. I'm shocked the New York Times published it. Can you walk our audience through? Because we've talked about lawfare a lot with Nixon as kind of the Kansas, as bloody Kansas was to the Civil War. So the lawfare against Nixon was exactly what they've done to Trump, sir.
Well, thank you, Steve. One of my previous books, my first book, was called The Strong Man, John Mitchell and the Secrets of Watergate, published by Doubleday in 2008. And it told the story of Richard Nixon's law partner and his campaign manager in 1968 when he won, and the Attorney General of the United States, John Mitchell, who then went to prison for his role in the Watergate cover-up. The highest-ranking U.S. official ever to serve time. So I've been at work on Nixon and Watergate for a very long time. Honestly, I've been obsessed with it since I'm a child, I'm ashamed to tell you. I did play Little League. I had a normal childhood. I want you to understand, Steve, but I've had this obsession for a long time. And one of the episodes of the first Nixon term before Watergate that is the most important in his presidency was something that very few people know about today. It was called the Moore-Radford Affair. And this was the discovery by the White House plumbers. That was a secret group that was formed to plug news leaks after the release of the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times. The plumbers were the ones who broke into the Watergate complex and planted the wiretaps in the Democratic National Committee headquarters. The plumbers were the ones who broke into the psychiatrist's office for the physician who was treating Daniel Ellsberg, the man that leaked the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times. But one of the other projects that the plumbers worked on was this Moore-Radford affair. And what happened was there was a very famous columnist at the time, Jack Anderson, who won a Pulitzer Prize for publishing contents of some White House and Defense Department memoranda, and also the minutes taken at a National Security Council meeting that had occurred just 10 days earlier. Okay, that was one of the most astonishing leaks in the history of the United States government, that Henry Kissinger, running the National Security Council, is having a private meeting with his aides about what to do about the India-Pakistan war. The United States was publicly neutral, but they were sort of tilting towards Pakistan because Pakistan was helping Nixon arrange his trip to China. And Kissinger was basically telling his own staff, I'm catching hell from the president every half hour because he thinks we're not doing enough to tilt towards Pakistan. So how are we fulfilling his orders? And Jack Anderson published that like 10 or 11 days later and won the Pulitzer Prize. The plumbers went to work on the leak. They swiftly zeroed in on a 28-year-old Navy yeoman, still alive, now 82, named Charles Radford. At the time, in December 1971, when the Anderson columns ran, Radford was 28 years old. He was a trained Navy stenographer, courier, body man, etc. And he had been assigned to Kissinger and his deputy at the time, Alexander Haig, to work in those functions. And he accompanied both men on trips around the world to foreign capitals, to Vietnam, to Pakistan, etc., and even to China when Kissinger was setting up that trip for President Nixon. And under instructions from his supervisors at the Pentagon, Yeoman Radford, as he later admitted, stole about 5,000 documents, classified documents from the NSC, diving into wastebaskets, burn bags, anything he saw, he made a copy of it, a Xerox. If he couldn't copy it, he memorized it. And he delivered this back to a pair of admirals who in turn gave all these documents to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's top military uniformed commanders. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at that time, benefiting from this spy ring, was Admiral Thomas Moorer, who had been the chief of naval operations and then had become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the plumbers found this yeoman, they polygraphed him, he broke down and cried because he was a devout Mormon. He admitted knowing Jack Anderson, who was also a Mormon. Their families were friendly through church. He denied giving the documents to Anderson, which the FBI or the NSA, which conducted the polygraph, found to be deceptive. But he admitted giving these documents to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In the year 2000, Steve, October of 2000, the tape of President Nixon being informed of this development for the first time was released by the National Archives. It was a rare nighttime session in the Oval Office, December 21, 1971. And not until the year 2000 was that tape declassified. And when it was, there was only one lonely researcher in America who showed up at the National Archives to hear that tape. And that was me. And I listened to the tape of that meeting where it's Nixon, only the heavy hitters, Nixon, Haldeman, the chief of staff, Ehrlichman, who ran the plumbers, and John Mitchell, the attorney general, president's confidant and friend. Henry Kissinger was excluded from the meeting because they saw him as a profligate leaker who was part of the problem in some way. And it fell to Ehrlichman to explain to the president, we've just discovered through using a polygraph and investigative means that the Joint Chiefs of Staff have been spying on you, stealing documents from the National Security Council, delivering it to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for 13 months in wartime. It was a unique crisis that no president had ever faced. Nixon on the tape says this is a federal offense of the highest order, and he demands that Admiral Moorer, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, be prosecuted for espionage. John Mitchell, the attorney general, says, in essence, we can't do that because all your secret operations around the world in Cambodia and elsewhere would leak. But we're going to go see Tom Moorer. We're going to tell him this ball game's over with, and we're going to wiretap this yeoman, and we're going to send him far out of town. And they did all of those things. I published the contents of those tapes in the Atlantic Monthly in 2002, and I expanded on it in my book in 2008.
James, can I hold you just through this short break? I want to get this story.
I'm so sorry, Steve. Yes.
No. It's perfect. It's perfect. I want to get into more details. Just we're going to take a short commercial break. The second hour, we'll start with James Rosen. This is the explosive piece. It talks you the secret history of the deep state. It also shows you how, it's just not President Trump that criticized him. Even back then, the Pentagon did not trust Kissinger, did not trust the National Security Council. They wanted to know exactly what was going on. A shocking revelation. James Rosen just said the only person to go over to the National Archives the day it was available and listen to it. We're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back in a moment. Take your phone out, Bannon, Bannon, at 989898. You get access. No obligation, totally free to Birch Gold, the investment in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. You also get access to Philip Patrick and the team, and with an appropriate investment, you get the Patriots edition of the End of the Dollar Empire. Make sure you check it out today. Short break.
holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAVAngel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAVAngel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Tuesday, 10 February, year of our Lord 2026. It is publication day for James Rosen's second volume of his magisterial biography of Associate Justice Scalia. I can't more strongly recommend a book. This is monumental. Get it and get one for a young person in your life. Out today in bookstores everywhere, also on Amazon. James, you wrote this piece in the New York Times. I'm shocked they published it. It's the secret history of the deep state. Essentially, the plumbers, Watergate all came about because the plumbers were called plumbers to stop the leaks coming out of the White House, but specifically, they thought Kissinger, I think, was leaking to the New York Times, so his buddies on the New York Times. It was to check the National Security Council. As you're walking through, we've got one of the most revered chief of naval operations, and folks, the chief of naval operations is the uniformed head of the Navy, Tom Moore. And they're actually talking about Nixon wants to charge him with felonies and prosecute him. And the counter argument from Mitchell is, well, we can't do that because all the secret operations we've got around the world will come out, and we don't want to do that. Is that what was the conundrum for President Nixon?
Partly, and as well, and Nixon can be heard on the tape saying this, he did not want to, as much as he wanted to punish the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas Moore, for running a spy ring against the National Security Council under Nixon and Kissinger for a year in wartime, where they had this young enlisted man, this Navy stenographer, Yeoman Charles Radford, pilfering these documents. As much as Nixon wanted to punish all involved, not only did he recognize that it would jeopardize some very sensitive operations around the world, and including the attempt to negotiate the end to the Vietnam War, but he also felt that he did not want to contribute to the vilification of the armed forces in a time when, as they were returning from Vietnam, many GIs were jeered as baby killers. Nixon did not want to contribute to the vilification of the armed forces. And even after Watergate broke and the Republicans on the Senate Watergate Committee, Howard Baker, came to him and said, Mr. President, the plumbers broke into Watergate, they broke into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office, but they also uncovered this situation where the Joint Chiefs were spying on you for a year in wartime. Let us publicize this. This will help save your presidency. And Nixon, to his credit, said no. He said the armed forces are more important, and he knew by that point anyway that his presidency was doomed. Before the break, I was talking about how I was the first researcher to hear the tape of those meetings of Nixon being informed of all this in 1971, when they came out in 2000. And I published them in The Atlantic and then in my book in the early 2000s. I am now with this article that appeared in Sunday's New York Times, which you're kind to help me promote. I'm now the first researcher to obtain another very important piece of evidence concerning this military spy ring and Nixon's responses to it. This is 7 pages of ex-President Nixon's grand jury testimony in 1975 that were held classified, that were restricted even from the grand jurors. They were so incendiary. And I obtained them and published them in this article in the New York Times on Sunday. You can go to my X feed at James Rosen TV and you'll find it. These 7 pages, Nixon disclosed, and this was the first time we knew this, that he met Yeoman Radford on an airplane. And he talked to the grand jurors about what a brilliant young man he was and how he spoke several languages and had a photographic memory. But he was emotionally unstable, and why they made the decision to not punish him, although they did wiretap him. I also reveal in this article for the first time the names and identities of 2 other people who were wiretapped along with Radford, a State Department official and a Defense Department official. That's never been disclosed before. When we think about the scene of President Nixon on an airplane shaking hands with Yeoman Radford, the mole for the military who's been stealing from the National Security Council for a year right under the noses of Nixon and Kissinger, it brings to mind for many Americans the famous or infamous photograph of Alger Hiss, the Soviet spy, shaking the hand of President Truman in San Francisco in 1945. If you want to know how high up the chain of command the mole got, the answer is the very top, the commander-in-chief. That's one of the revelations from these 7 declassified pages from ex-President Nixon's grand jury testimony, revealed here in this New York Times article for the first time.
So Grace and Mo, I want to make sure we put it out, and everybody in the War Room Posse read it. Let's be force multipliers and push this out. Before I let you go, James, because I know you got to run. You're chief Washington correspondent at Newsmax. You spent years at Fox. You're one of the most, particularly on the right, one of the most revered newsmen in D.C. and in the country. You agree that the title of this piece should have been "The Secret History of the Deep State." Are you a conspiracy theorist? Do you actually think, after your research in this, that there is a deep state?
So what we call the deep state is really a label for what I say in this article is a hidden and enduring feature of the American political system, which is that when responsible stakeholders are excluded from their sphere of interest, they will, almost as a biological reflex, respond aggressively. And in this article, published in the New York Times, I say that ex-President Nixon 50 years ago in a small Coast Guard station in San Clemente, facing off against 8 special prosecutors and 2 members of the Washington grand jury and a stenographer, proved that this beast existed, and in fact that he, despite having been guilty in Watergate, had been a victim of the deep state. And in the article, we make the connection to President Trump and our own time. And we talk about the similarities and differences between these 2 men. And the 2 signal differences that I mentioned, and this closes the article, is number 1, that President Trump, since he returned to power, has displayed a ruthlessness in the purging of the perceived enemy within the government that President Nixon, despite similar inclinations, could never conjure, even when faced with criminal insubordination like we've been discussing. And the second big difference is that Mr. Trump appears on track, at least at this time, to finish his 2nd term.
James Rosen, where do they get you on social media? And particularly, where do they get the book today? Today is game day. We want everybody that possibly can to go buy it, read it, and give it as a gift to somebody. Where do people go, sir?
Thank you, Steve. You can find me on Newsmax and Newsmax 2, our streaming service, but also on X, I'm at James Rosen TV. That's at James Rosen TV. And you can buy my new book, Scalia's Supreme Court Years, 1986 to 2001, covering the first half of his monumental legacy on the Supreme Court, on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, anywhere fine books are sold, anywhere you buy books, you'll find it today.
Keep doing the great job over at Newsmax. You guys are one of the leaders in news, and appreciate you and Chris Ruddy and the entire team over there. Thank you, James, for taking time this morning.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Chief Washington correspondent for Newsmax. Jake Seawolf. We get special deals for the War and Posse all the time because of people's responses. Jake Seawolf from My Patriot Supply. You've got a very special deal for the War and Posse alone. What is it, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing is for you guys only, you guys got two choices. On our main website, we have the Mount Rushmore bundle, which covers our 4 pillars: the water filtration, heat, power, and food. And then also on your guys' special page, we are running 3 months off, or 3 months kit. You get $100 off. I like the Rushmore bundle quite a bit, but this is the big kicker. When you guys call in, but you have to call in because this is specifically for you, the War Room Posse. When you call in, you get a 72-hour kit for free. Store the other food, put it in your closet. We want you guys to actually try out our food so you understand how good it is. Because not only is it probably the best food on the market, but I don't know if a lot of you noticed, we are now fortifying most of our meals, almost every single one of them, with 12 essential vitamins and minerals. Tell me who else does that.
Tell me, go back. Jake, go back for a second. Walk through. I want you to take a minute and walk through for the audience the 4 pillars. What are they and why are they important?
Absolutely. So you have water filtration because can't survive long without water. I mean, got to filter it out. And then heat, which can be for cooking or for heating your house or staying warm, of course. Then you have power. That's right. You're getting the big Grit Doctor 3300 with the 4th pillar there. That thing is a beast, a workhorse. And then, of course, food. Everyone's got to eat all day, every day, especially when you look like me.
So hold it. If we go to, I want to make sure the audience understands this. If we go and get the 4 pillars, the Mount Rushmore, you're throwing in the food for free. Is that what this deal is?
You have to call in, tell us you're the War Room Posse so we can add this to your cart for you. That's the only way to get this for free because we want you guys to actually try out our meals. That one's only for you guys.
What's the number they call? I want everybody to pile into this. These companies come back and give special deals because of the response of the War and Posse. Where do people call?
Absolutely. 866-229-0927. When you go to mypatriotsupply.com, or the phone number is right at the top in case you guys forget. Just Google us, whatever you need to. But 866-229-0927. Call in, tell us you're the War Room Posse because we love you guys. Try our food. You'll understand that if this is what you're eating in the end of the world probably won't be so bad. So
amazing. You guys started this.
Love hearing from you guys.
You started this whole vertical. It's incredible. Jake Seawolf, look forward to having you back on. Mo and Grace, let's make sure everybody gets that number. Call in today, War and Posse only. You get the Mount Rushmore kit and they'll throw in the free food. Do it today, right now. Do I have John Fredericks? Is he on the bus? No, John Fredericks. He's out in Iowa. We're trying to track him down. Rosemary Jenks. First off, Rosemary, why is this so important? Everything is up on Capitol Hill right now. We got all these fights going on. You're huge about the SAVE Act. Tell me about the fights we have on about the voting and the immigration and the flooding the zone with illegal alien labor, ma'am.
So the 2 big fights on Capitol Hill right now are about the Save America Act, which is coming to the House floor tomorrow for a vote. It is going to pass, and then it goes to the Senate, where it will either die a long, painful death, or the Senate Republicans will agree to move to the talking filibuster under the current Senate rules, in which case they can pass it. And that will require Democrats to go to the floor of the Senate and debate, actually do their jobs, to explain to the American people why they oppose voter ID and proof of U.S. citizenship to vote in our elections. The second big fight is about DHS funding. As you know, the Senate, at the White House's request, separated out the Department of Homeland Security from a larger appropriations bill that funded several other agencies. So now, because Democrats don't want to fund immigration enforcement, they are negotiating over just the Department of Homeland Security funding bill. There's a lot of misinformation out there about this because, again, as you know, Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill last year that had $170-some billion for border control and ICE in it. However, all of that money is designated. So it is for new ICE and Border Patrol officers, new equipment, new cameras.
Full stop. You are breaking some news here, ma'am, because we've heard the exact opposite from people. I got a minute here. I want you to take the entire minute. I'm going to hold you through the break. We were told that, hey, we don't have to worry about ICE. It's just FEMA and TSA and other aspects of it. You say au contraire?
Absolutely au contraire. And every Democrat knows this. They know they are defunding immigration enforcement. That money that was in the One Big Beautiful Bill cannot be repurposed outside of the specific lane that it was created for. So, for example, there's a lot of money in there for detention beds. Detention beds you can repurpose and say, okay, instead of paying for next year's detention beds with that money, we're going to pay for this year's detention beds because the Democrats refuse to fund it. You cannot do that with personnel. So even though there's all this money for new officers and agents, you can't pay the current ones. We don't have the funding in the Department of Homeland Security to pay the current operating costs. So every Border Patrol agent, every ICE agent who was on the job, for the last however many years is not going to get paid if the Department of Homeland Security shuts down on Friday.
Hang on for 1 second. Rosemary Jenks is here from the Immigration Accountability Project. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to come back with more explosive insights from Rosemary Jenks.
In America's heart.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAVAngel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAVAngel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
Hi, Pat from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Hello, this is Kurt. Why do I love Rav? You ever talk to the host? You can do that on Rav. And the Rav family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, you can get the Patriots edition. Now more than ever, you ought to understand, or you have to understand, you have to have a relationship with Birch Gold about not the price of gold or silver, but the process that drives the value. You know, why are central banks buying gold at record rates? Why is crypto crashing, right? Because crypto is looked to be a hedge just like gold. It turns out I don't think that's the case. I think the case, and I think people are making that case every day. They don't have the liquidity. So the way you do that is go to birchgold.com, promo code Bannon, end of the dollar empire. We called this shot, and let me be blunt, we were the only ones that called it on the day that Biden came into office, right? They said this was going to happen, that they're going to print money and drive down the value of the dollar, and you lost 25%, I think 26% of purchasing power of the dollar over those years. The BRICS nations got it. The central banks of the BRICS nations got it. With Birch Gold, we put out a 7-part series. It's all free. Go to birchgold.com, promo code Bannon, the end of the dollar empire. You can now get a Patriots edition with an appropriate investment. But talk to Philip Patrick and the team about that. I know you're going to want the hard copy. We're coming out with the 8th edition online here shortly, as soon as I approve the graphics and all the math, et cetera. But gold, I think, was $1,000, $1,100 at the time, around $5,000 a day. That was a called shot because we told you exactly how it was going to happen. So today, get with Philip Patrick and the team and find out why gold has been a hedge for 5,000 years of mankind's history. All this is inextricably linked. Right now, we're in the middle of this fight, folks, and a lot of people want your attention diverted. I would actually say, with this invasion of the country and this fight over immigration, Rosemary's going to jump in here, and then John Fredericks is going to join us from Iowa. Rosemary's going to talk to us also about Texas. But essentially, the business model of the elites in this country, I hope you understand what's going on, and I think from what we've done at the War Room to explain to you, we are, because I did work at Goldman for many years, and I had Goldman Sachs, and I had my own firm. We, right now, are a highly leveraged bet on artificial intelligence and other aspects of technology. Let me repeat this. We're a highly leveraged. You're doing a leveraged buyout. But we're a highly leveraged bet with $39 trillion in debt, and that's only the surface of it. It doesn't talk about all the contingent liabilities that gets us over, I don't know, if you look at the net present value, $150 trillion of obligations. When you do the net present value, we are highly leveraged, running a $2 trillion deficit every year. And as we now know, it's become very plain from Minneapolis that you're paying for a lot of this crap that's going to absolutely destroy you. We're going to have the Chinese on in a few minutes to talk about how you're paying for it over in Asia with some of your top venture capital firms, how you're paying for your own destruction, your country's own destruction. This negotiation is very important. And you can tell Eric Schmidt came back from his time with the president they went down, he watched the Super Bowl with the president. He came back, he's been a bull, but Lindsey Graham kind of got religion. It's the lead story on the Hill today. And if Denver could put it up and Grayson Moe could push it out, I need everybody to read that story in the Hill, the lead story about how the Republican Senate is getting very aggressive now. But I've said from the beginning, I was uncomfortable, particularly we don't know the proposal that the Republican Senate answered to the Democrats. And you would think if it was as hardcore as it needs to be, which it should have been like when the Germans asked the 101st Airborne at Bastogne to surrender, they gave them a 2-word answer. And the second part was you. There shouldn't have been any proposal. There's nothing there to negotiate. But Rosemary, I just want to, because you're one of the most detailed people I know, how do you know that the original ICE funding is not included in the $170 billion package. And do we actually, the Democrats actually, I believe, and I've said this from the beginning, have leverage here, ma'am?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you can read the actual One Big Beautiful Bill, and you see that every line of funding is dedicated to a specific purpose. So detention beds, new ICE officers, new Border Patrol officers, new equipment. So that means that if the Department of Homeland Security is defunded as of Friday night, then if you're an ICE officer who has worked there for 20 years, you're not going to get paid. If you're one of the new ICE officers who has been hired on the money of the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's money there for you. But standard operations that were ongoing when that bill passed are not going to be funded, with a couple of exceptions like detention beds, because that money is more fungible. So there is a possibility of repurposing some of the money, but most of it cannot be refunded.
But this makes perfect sense, because 170 billion, and we went crazy about the scale of it. This was argued, you need a new logistics chain. They're building up hubs like in Maricopa County. You need all this logistics. You need all these new people, because Biden allowed 15 to 25 million invaders into the country, and it's going to cost a fortune to get them out. But in the regular appropriations process, the DHS budget was part of it. The traditional DHS budget, which has 260,000 people in FEMA and TSA and all the security operations we've got in the joint ventures they've got with DNI and FBI and all that, and including ICE and Border Patrol, Customs and Border, is in the original funding bill. That funds the original. The 170 billion is for new stuff going forward. Hang on for 1 second. Rosemary, I'm going to come back to you. John Frederickson in Iowa. John, you're taking the bus around Iowa so that your wife, I think, smartly said, get out of D.C. You got to get back in touch with the base of this country. What are you hearing specifically on immigration, on the border, on mass deportations, on this big fight in the House and the Senate to codify these voting requirements? I mean, everything that is hot right now on Capitol Hill. Where does the folks in Iowa stand?
Steve, you know, it's amazing. If there's any state in the country that is dependent on illegal workers, it's Iowa, because of the farms and the farmers here that need the labor when harvest season comes. To a person, here's what they're telling me. It's pretty amazing. They're saying, look, back in the 70s, you know, we had legislation in the State House and the governor and the state Senate, and we said, look, we're going to let temporary workers in. We got to find a way to do this. We're going to embrace them when they come in. They're here for a certain period of time. They're going to get paid well, and then they leave. Those that want to stay can apply for legal status. It's going to take time. They're going to assimilate. We'll embrace them. That's what Iowans have done since the 70s. So what they're telling me, to a person, we've got 20 million illegals here. We want them out. Trump came to the caucuses, said, I'm going to get them out. They want them out. They said, we have figured out a legal and right way to get the immigration workers into the country when we need them, pay them well, and then they leave and go back home with some money in their pocket. Everybody wins. They just don't stay here illegally. And here's the other thing. You know, the people that are saying, look the other way, those that have hired illegals here, well, they're not following the law because they're not doing E-Verify. And the people that are doing it the right way are saying, wait a minute, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm following the law and I got to pay higher wages than those that are breaking the law and letting these illegals work and paying them low wages and under the table. So if there's any state that should be saying, hey, no, we don't want to deport anybody, keep them all here, let's get amnesty, you know, we need them on the farms. Every Iowan farmer I've talked to has said the exact opposite. We figured out how to do it the right way. We follow the law, and it has been very stable for our state. We never have a problem during harvest season doing it the right way. So, look, the bottom line is those that are saying, well, E-Verify doesn't matter, and the illegals, we need them, or the economy is going to collapse. These are the same Chamber of Commerce rhinos that have been saying the same thing for 50 years. They want cheap labor. I'm saying, well, do you want amnesty? No, I don't want amnesty. Well, if you don't want to do anything and you don't want to deport them and you want to keep paying them and then let them go on welfare, then you for amnesty. We either get them out or we don't. And right now, I'm taking a hard stand of any state. It should be the opposite. But this is truly America right here. You're in the heartland, and they want President Trump to follow through on his promise to get rid of these 20 million illegals that came in under Joe Biden. Criminals are their priority, but then they got to get everybody out. I was kind of shocked by that because I expected to hear the opposite.
Well, that's one of the reasons you want to get out there. And I think it's one of the powers of taking the bus out there. Last question. We got about 90 seconds. All these issues about voter integrity, what you're seeing in Georgia, what you and I with Garland Favorito covered extensively, is that an issue for the folks in Iowa? Do they think these the SAVE, all these acts we have to do to get the illegal aliens out so they can't vote, voter ID, clean up the rolls, no of these phony mail-in ballots? Where do people out there stand on that, sir?
They want the SAVE Act, and they want John Thune and the Republicans to grow a pair and get rid of the 60-vote filibuster and cloture rule that's man-made. They know as soon as the Democrats get power, that thing's gone in the second hour. They want to get rid of that. They want the SAVE Act. And the view here is, look, if sovereign Americans are voting, if you have voter ID and you're here illegally, the Democrats will never win another national election. They all know that. I mean, to a person here, they know if only legal Americans vote that are citizens, the Democrats are done. That's why they want the SAVE Act. They don't understand why Republicans will not allow this thing to go through. Just get rid of the filibuster. They've got 50 votes in order to pass it, and then you ensure a fair and honest election.
John, 30 seconds. Where do people go to get you on the bus, social media, show, all of it?
Just go to my website, johnfredericksradio.com, johnfredericksradio.com. Follow me on social media at JF Radio Show. The bus tours there. Also, vote in our Iowa straw poll. We're getting some really surprising results in. You can cast your vote there. It's right on our website, johnfredericksradio.com, live in Iowa, where it's pretty cold here, Steve.
We can tell, sir. Ann had a great idea. Get you out of the house. Get you out. You were underfoot. Get you out to Iowa and the people. Okay, Rosemary Jenks on the other side. We'll talk about what John Fredericks just told us from the heartland of the country. Also, my Chinese colleagues join us about anti-CCP.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Rosemary Jenks is with us. Rosemary, before we get to, I want to talk about H-1Bs in a moment, particularly being down here in Texas. People are outraged about what's going on. Just the call to action one more time. The call to action of the next couple of days, because I happen to think this thing they may get a temporary CR. It takes a couple of weeks because the Senate wants to leave on Thursday and go to Munich for the Munich Security Conference. So they're not going to be able to get this done in time. That's my call. But we've got to get on these folks now. What's your call to action over at the Immigration Accountability Project?
Well, I would say do something that may be a little bit uncomfortable and call Democrat senators and tell them that you want the Department of Homeland Security funded. You want immigration enforcement intact, because Schumer and Jeffries are blaming Americans. They're saying that they are doing what Americans want them to do. Let's make sure they know Americans do not want this. They do not want FEMA and Coast Guard and TSA and ICE and CBP defunded. Let's get that done. Let's also pass the SAVE Act. Tell your senators, your Republican senators, that it's time to, at the very least, go to the talking filibuster and move the Save America Act after the House passes it on Wednesday. These two pieces of legislation are absolutely critical. We have to save our elections, and we have to keep immigration enforcement going and get President Trump to his mass deportations.
If I can make recommendations, I think Ossoff down in Georgia, if you're going to call a Democrat, Ossoff in Georgia, was a Slotkin in Michigan, and Fetterman in Pennsylvania. I would start there. Right. A lot of them are going to hang up the phone. I think Ossoff particularly will take his staff will take the phone call, and Fetterman will also. I think Fetterman's on the bubble anyway. Okay. We're down here in Texas, and we got an amazing show today on War Room Texas. We're down here in Texas on this Sharia law, on the primary 3 March. We're covering, obviously, the Senate race very, very closely. But let me be brutally frank, as intense, and I've never seen it more intense. We gave a permission structure to talk about Sharia law, and that we're having conferences every day. There's meetings. I'm meeting grassroots people, county chairmen. This is the number one topic where it was not even talked about weeks ago. However, right behind that, almost in every meeting, people come up to me and say, Steve, you got to help us out. We got to get Rosemary Jenks, and we've got to make these H-1B visas a priority. It's destroying Texas. It's going to destroy the country. What do you have to say to the folks in Texas, Rosemary Jenks?
Well, I will tell you, we are working every single day to try to convince members of Congress that we must deal with the H-1B issue. This is ruining the future generations of America. If our young people cannot get jobs because of the OPT to H-1B pipeline, we have destroyed an entire generation. And we cannot, as a nation, do that. We must show some loyalty to our own children and get these folks the ability to get a job. So we are doing everything we can possibly do to get an H-1B reform package, elimination package, moratorium package, something that can actually get some attention in Congress. I hope that we will have news on that very soon. And of course, I will bring it to the War Room Posse first. So, we need all the support we can get in getting this done. But we're working very hard on it.
No, we got to stop the H-1B program. I don't know if it can be reformed. well, I'm a strong believer. We just got to force it through and punch it through to eliminate it. It's destroying not just future generations. It's destroying so many people who work so hard to get into the tech area. Anyway, Rosemary, where do people go right now to get all the information about your amazing startup?
IAPaction.com is our website, where we have a congressional ranking system that ranks 535 members of Congress. You can see exactly what they're doing on immigration and what they're not doing. We're on X at IA Project. So those are the best places to reach us right now. All of our social media is linked from the website, IAPaction.com.
Thank you, ma'am. Look forward to having you back in the next couple of days. We want to get you on War Room Texas. People want to see you over there.
Thank you.
Forrest and Ava from the New Federal State. Forrest, I want to start with you. Peter Schweitzer has got a book that became a New York Times #1 bestseller, The Invisible Coup, because of the Chinese Communist Party active warfare against the United States of America. You've been on for years telling people this. Is the CCP in unrestricted warfare, in a unlimited war against the United States of America and our citizens, sir?
Yes, absolutely. CCP using this unrestricted warfare against the U.S. for a long time. And Moscow was able to tell us, even before Peter, like a decade ago, tell us it's not a theory. It's actually proven by the Mao's intelligence and his deep understanding of the Chinese Communist Party. The thing I want to point out here is that Peter mentioned about Chinese people, but actually most of the Chinese immigrants, it's innocent 老百姓, but CCP does exploit the immigrant and use them to attack and infiltrate the U.S. But the most danger and the damage caused is so-called Chinese elite. The Chinese elite was able to work with the U.S. elite together to damage, to infiltrate, to corrupt the U.S. system. That's the real danger and the damage caused by the CCP. For example, the enterprise like HNA and the individuals like Jack Ma and Shang Weijian, all those individuals, Wu Zheng, all those people, they are the so-called Chinese elites. They are working closely with CCP to damage, undermining the U.S. system. That's what really happens. And most of the immigrants or Chinese 老百姓, they want to get a better living condition. A lot of Chinese people, like myself, a lot of people, they give their children a backup and an option to live in the U.S. Actually, a lot of families will tell their children the reason they were chosen to born in the U.S. is because they want their children to have a better life. They believe the U.S. system is much better than the CCP controlled system. That's the reason. So on that point, I think I have a little bit difference than Peter, but the most point, I think he's right. The U.S. elite does do a lot of damage to the U.S. system.
So let me talk, Ava. I've got about 4 or 5 minutes here. I want to go through the Wall Street Journal. Talking about elites, the Wall Street Journal has got an article, came over the weekend. I'll make sure the audience sees it. Talks about the decoupling, right? Or as Cleo Pascal says, the deparasiting. They want to decouple from the American economy. They put $1 trillion into the Chinese economy. This is the CCP, to get away from the foreign devils, right? And whether it's agriculture, all this. But at the same time, you guys at the New Federal States put up a video. I don't know if we've got it that could play, but it's shocking to me. It's an IPO, I think, that's happening in Hong Kong. And you're basically making the case that every investment bank, commercial bank, consulting firms, everything's going to be sucked into this, and is basically going to be an advocate for the Chinese Communist Party. Walk me through this IPO, because if they're going to decouple, I'm a huge believer in decoupling. We have to decouple, and we can't let these side pocket backdoor deals really suck us in even deeper. Walk me through what's happening in this initial public offering in Hong Kong that's getting Western institutions to support it.
I mean, this is a mechanism, and this article shed a light on one company. It's called Syngenta. A lot of people thinking it's a Switzerland company. It's the largest, one of the largest agro-tech business in the world. But unfortunately, it was bought out completely by the CCP state-owned company. It's called Sinochem, which was actually designated as the CCP military company under Trump administration. Guess what? When Biden came into power, they reversed that direction. So, but anyway, so now it's a CCP military company. and putting on the massive Hong Kong IPO. We're talking about 10 billion. They throw a number just out there. So think about this mechanism. It's binding of the global elites. That's what Forrest just mentioned about the US elites, the world elites and the Chinese elites. And they are including Wall Street bankers. We're talking about Goldman Sachs, the UBS, CICC, the Chinese Investment Capital Corporation, and possibly they also talk of Morgan Stanley and HSBC. So you see the familiar names jumps out at you. So they reinforce the circle of interest. All of the person have a cut in the deal, including law firms, consultants, insurance, you name it. And they all have vested interest in the regime's success. And on top of it, guess why the CCP is selecting those firms and lock out the others? This is a political decision for the CCP. Access and privilege based on loyalty. So how do they get loyalty? Compromise. We're so familiar with the Epstein case right now. The entire world is consumed, especially the West, is consumed by the Epstein file. Guess who did that in the behind the scene? That's the CCP. They want you to focusing on the AI fakes, those bots, troll farms, paid influencers to keep you picking at the wound. But when you dive into your own wound and the CCP's crying disappear in noises, guess what happened on Epstein Island is industrialized by the Chinese Communist Party in China. Okay, so this is a normal life already. That's very, very tragic because there are countless victims. And those elites knew as long as CCP is in power, their secrets are safe. That's why they not only have vested interest in keep the regime, keep giving the regime capital, just like the IPOs, and helping them, but they also have the vested interest to making sure their secrets, what you see, it's just a tip of iceberg in the Epstein file. There's tons of them buried by the CCP.
How can we stop, if this is a way to suck everybody in, right, and use compromise to do it, how can we stop this IPO? How can we stop? We've talked about cutting off American capital. We've talked about cutting off American companies. The CCP, as the Wall Street Journal said, is spending $1 trillion to basically decouple from us at the same time that we're getting closer bonds with them. How can we right now try to stop this?
I mean, this is exactly what the Trump administration, the second 2.0 is doing. Codify. You have lawmakers, you have medias. So this is great what you've done on Warren, and you've did so much. That's why the CCP is scared of you and Trump the most. That's why I have to congratulate on your case being dropped. This is definitely a defeat for the CCP, and we need to do more of it. Having new federal state of China have Miles School out of MDC will be a great victory for bring down the CCP and save and rescue America and make America again. So decouple. Don't send the money through law, through executive orders, or codify into law, and expose those CCP operatives and separating the Chinese people and the CCP, because the Chinese people are your best ally, and we're fighting the same game.
Forrest, real quickly, where do people go to New Federal State? You're putting up content all the time on Getter and other places. Where do folks go right now?
Yeah, we can go to Getter on the NFIC Speaks, NFIC TV, and also on the X NFIC Speak.
I've put this up on my Getter feed. You got to understand this. A massive IPO. I think, would you say $10 billion in Hong Kong, and sucking in every American investment bank, commercial bank, all the big law firms, all the big consulting firms on a company that you think on the surface is Swiss. It's not at all. It's agriculture and technology by the CCP and the PLA. Guys, Ava, where they get you on New Federal State? We got about 30 seconds.
Okay, you can find me on Getter and S7GIIL, and also visit our website. It's nfscofficial.com.
Yeah, you're putting up a newscast every day. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Right there. They're spending $1 trillion to decouple from the United States of America, $1 trillion. And what are we doing? Our elites, the venture capitalists, the hedge funds, the investment banks, all of them are kowtowing more than ever. This is one of the reasons we got this problem. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve. Go check it out. You get 14 days, 2 weeks, free $1 million triple lock protection. You'll understand they're protecting you from not just AI and cyber, but rogue lawyers, accountants, and rogue family members. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted. J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I want to thank, I got Glenn's story here. Now, you've been all over the state. You've been down the Rio Grande Valley, our favorite part of the state. You've been all over talking to people and carrying the message. You've helped us launch Warren, Texas, or actually your wife who does all the work. You're the
brains and the muscle.
And the muscle. You're the pretty face.
Yeah, right.
Patriot Mobile. You've been down in Mar-a-Lago. I heard that you brought the house down in Mar-a-Lago. You got to tell me that story.
No, I didn't bring the house down. That was Mike Rowe. But I have to tell you a funny story, though. We're sitting there, and Mike Rowe's doing a presentation. He just starts to talk, and my phone rings. And I'm on the front row. I was sitting at the table.
You don't have it on silent?
No. I never silent. In case Jenny calls or my boss.
Oh, you don't silent.
Yeah. And my phone rings, and I'm like scrambling to put it out, right? And he goes, of course, in that voice, of course, it's the Patriot Mobile guys. That phone rings precisely when I step on stage.
It's another branding opportunity.
Yeah, he's such a good guy. We want them to do well. We just want to do better.
You were down at because he's with the competitor. That's right.
Yeah, they're not a competitor really. They just do the same thing.
They're prepaid. You're the best phone service in the world.
Amen.
Tell me about you're down with Lindell and the president. Tell me about Mike Lindell. How's Mike Lindell? Mike Lindell's going to follow us. How's he doing?
Oh, he's smoking hot. The God is moving through this man. You think about it, 2 or 3 decades ago, he was in the middle of a binge, if you will. And then
no, he's a degenerate gambler and a drug addict. And when God took his life, now he runs one of the greatest companies in this country. And running for governor, hell, he's already got Waltz out of the deal. He's got Amy Klobuchar out of the Senate. They're so nervous in Minnesota to have Mike Lindell have his hands on the documents to put them all in prison for 50 years. They're taking Klobuchar out of a safe Senate seat and having her run against him.
Yeah, it looks like they might take all three, the Senate, the House, and as well as the governorship. Look, I spent a couple of days with Mike. He's on fire. God is just moving through him, and he had a gentleman pray for him, came up, and Mike just loved it or accepted it. And you know what's really beautiful? He's on fire. He's going to take this thing. I know he is. He is.
So we're down here, and we're very focused on this primary. We had the Attorney General on last night. We had Ken Paxton, all this new polling. We're going around and Jenny's putting together these huge conferences. We've got more county chairmen on today. It's just fantastic. Talk to me about Patriot Mobile. And I go around the state. Everybody loves it. Why do people have to make the switch today? What is special about Patriot Mobile? You got the best service. You got a call-in center, a 972 Patriot. You got folks with the East Texas accent that helps you. But the core of this company is its values.
Hey, look, I'll tell this to anyone. When you invite God into your life, I'm not perfect. Thank God Jesus came into this world, walked and died on the cross to take away our sins. But the real beauty of it is when you invite him into your business, what happens is all of a sudden the talk around the cooler changes. It's no longer, what about this? How can we help others, right, that align with him? And so that really makes a change. And then number two really is, this is a device. Everybody has one. We happen to use this device to fund our activity, right? We want to see this country stay the way it is and get better, back to like it was in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. And my dad was a World War II vet. He fought with the greatest generation this country has ever seen that set up the most prosperity all the way to the 80s, right? Until we had a little bit in the 70s. But I want it back to that. I want it for my children, not for me. I'm fine. I'll be fine. But it's the children and the grandchildren in this country. So, look, I encourage you to come to join Patriot Mobile. 972 Patriot or patriotmobile.com/Bannon. Tell them you found us on Bannon. And last thing, I want to say hi to my friend Trent. He works within the Seattle Seahawks, and they're actually really good guys. I just want to say that. They're incredible guys. They are Patriots.
They had a heck of a day on Sunday against the Patriots. Did. Last question. People ask me all the time. Do you have to go to a store? How complicated? If people want to switch over their phone service today, how complicated is it? There's this big rigmarole. They got to go to a store and do everything. What do they actually have to do right now?
It's easy. Call 972 Patriot. Say, I heard about you on Bannon. I want to switch today. It can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to about 10 minutes. It's really
that short.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
It's not going to the phone store and taking
no.
And losing your number.
Yeah, as Scott used to say, you would walk into a phone store, and by the time you want to walk out, you want to shut your head in the car door because it's a pain. Now it's so simple because these modern phones, you basically back them up. You transition it to, that's when you're switching phones. When you have your own phone, it's so easy. We'll send you a QR code. You scan the QR code. It starts the back end work. It's simple.
972 Patriot. You've got a customer service team, all American citizens with East Texas accents, correct?
Well, I say we're rednecks, instead of East Texas hillbillies. Hey, I do want to say this is great. We're sitting there at dinner or lunch with Jason Aldean. He goes, how good does it work? How well does it work? I said, it really did. And Stephen, he's our EVP at GSD. He gets stuff done. He already had it teed up. He said, here, just scan this QR code. He scans it, and boom, the phone was live with Patriot Mobile. He was like, oh, my goodness. And it worked just like that. So my point really being is it's so simple today. It's not like the olden days. Look, we have a full complement of phones, Samsung, Apple, whatever you want.
Mike Lindell. We're going to talk about governorship this afternoon when you come on the show. The folks want to know, what's the deal? You got a new deal for us? Warren Posse wants a deal.
It's a double deal. It's where two sales collide. It only happens once a year. It's our mega second annual mega sale, you guys. All the new Giza sheets came in as low as $29.98. There you see the 6-pack towel sets. Lowest price in history, $34.98. That's over half price. And it's a War Room exclusive. Then you see we put the My Pillows in there, $14.98. The $14 My Pillows are back. And then you have we left the mattress toppers, the best mattress toppers and mattresses in history, free shipping on your entire order. Go to mypillow.com/War Room. There's all the sales, you guys. 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee on the mattresses. It'll give you the best sleep of your life. Get those big ticket items. We're running for a couple more days. Promo code War Room, 800-873-1062. Remember that number. Call up my friends, my call center reps. They love the War Room Posse. Tell them I sent you, and you use promo code War Room. You get free shipping today.
Mike, we'll see you this afternoon. Most powerful promo code in the business. MyPillow.com, promo code War Room. The Charlie Kirk Show is next. Poso after that. We're back live at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to be followed by War Room Texas. See you then.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you